Mike Lindell has some breaking news for us. So we're going to go ahead and bring in LindellTV.com CEO Mike Lindell. I know it's related to a very important case, but I don't even know enough to tee it up. So just take it away. I can't wait to hear it, Mike.
Yeah, you guys, this will be the #1 story in the world, or it should be, because it was the #1 story in the world a couple years ago. Everybody remembers the Cyber Symposium and the $5 million challenge. Well, I went to binding arbitration, and this guy, Zeidman, they decide that he wins the $5 million. And everybody remember when they announced that on a Tuesday, Fox News, this all happened the same week. Fox News, the #1 story in the world, Dominion settled for $787 million. On Wednesday, Mike Lindell's evidence is all wrong. He loses $5 million. On Friday, the Fox fires Tucker Carlson. All in 1 week. It's like if you talk about our elections or if you have evidence, you're going to get sued. Well, today, just now, 10 minutes ago, everybody, a federal court in Minnesota appeals court overruled them, and it happens, my lawyer said, less than 1/100th of 1%. This doesn't happen. This is a miracle, and it's righteous. They totally vindicated. I sent you a text, Emerald. I don't know if you want to read that. That was just from the.
I have that.
Yeah, go ahead and read that.
I have that from the opinion. The court. This is amazing news. First off, congratulations. In the opinion, the judge writes, or the court writes, quote, "We conclude that the panel effectively amended the unambiguous challenge contract when it used extrinsic evidence to require that the data provided was packet capture data, thereby violating established principles of Minnesota contract law and our arbitration precedents. Accordingly, we reversed the grant of Zeidman's motion to confirm because, quote, the arbiters exceeded their powers. This is according to 9 U.S. Code 10A4, if you're looking for, the legal basis there. Mike, this is huge. I can't tell. I have heard so many times since I started working with you, when I talk about election fraud and how we continue to expose it, people say, well, but yeah, didn't Mike Lindell have to pay out $5 million for being wrong? Yeah. They use that. That is, I think, most often used to try to knock your credibility, Mike.
That was it. That's what they tried to do. Let's destroy Mike Lindell. When we had the Cyber Symposium, even the Facebook fact checkers, they were there. I said, is this data from the 2020 election? And they said, yes. Everybody, there was hundreds of cyber experts, upwards of 100, including Harry Hursty from, these guys that were there, all of them said it was from the 2020 election. None of them challenged. And here this Simon, which I believe was a complete setup, if you knew who his lawyer was, that has ties back to the CIA and stuff, back in the day with the evidence that I had gotten. And also this from Dennis Montgomery, by the way, everybody. And this was that evidence, or part of that evidence. And then what they did, their routers or routers, and they're actually calling. They were directly involved too, and I don't know how, because when this came out of that ruling, remember these guys went to a panel, they lost, then they brought it to this binding arbitration panel of judges, and they ruled against it, and I wasn't even. It was totally surprised, and even the Zeidman Emerald said on TV, "Well, we know we'll probably never get any money, but we've got to send a message out there that you don't put out disinformation about our elections, and in order to say Trump, I voted for Donald Trump too, like that makes a difference, right? Of this corruption that goes on in our country." It just so reminded me like what they just said in court in Colorado, federal court where I just won there, where My Pillow won, but their lawyers said straight out to the jury, we know this could bankrupt Mike Lindell because he's and My Pillow, but you know what? If that happens, so be it, because we need to send a message to the country that if you question our elections and put out disinformation, you could end up like Mike Lindell. Well, here we are, Emerald. This is one of the highlights. I prayed for this day. There were so many of you out there that have prayed and prayed and prayed. This is a turning point. This is another breakthrough. And we'll just see if this makes international news, which the $5 million challenge did. You know what I compare this stuff to, Emerald? It's like when Chris Krebs came out. It's the most secure election ever. Well, how many times did we hear that by the media over and over and over again? And then he's all been discredited, right? How many times did we hear Mike Lindell owes $5 million? I go, it's in appeal. You know, that's what appeals are for. You get corruption, and then you have to appeal it. That's the world we're in.
But they had to have it for the narrative. I think Jimmy Kimmel probably is one person who owes you an apology related to this, right? Have you texted Jimmy yet?
Yeah, and Stephen Colbert, there's another one. All those late night hosts. Hello. Hey, I'll tell you what, but we're going to use this as a gateway to open those doors that no man can shut, because we are on the offensive. My teams are working on the ground across this country. I said, and we all know that the president's working from the top down. And by the way, everybody, I will see you all in Washington, D.C. tomorrow, live here on Lindell TV. I will be live from the White House. I can't wait, because now we have something to talk about for the next day. This is so awesome. I'm so excited.
A win to talk about at the White House, and we certainly need those.